California's beautiful Tri-Valley region is a short distance from San Francisco. It's kind of east of it, and there's a bay area of it. There's wineries. There's a lot of history, nature. It just sounds like one of the most beautiful places to go when you're up in Northern California. And we're very excited to have a travel, food, and wine writer Hilarie Larson back on Big Blend Radio today, not just for Big Blend Radio, but for a happy hour show where she belongs. She is going to join us to talk about her recent adventures there. Sounds like she had an awesome trip, and you can actually follow what we're going to talk about today if you go to nationalparktraveling.com, because she's going to talk about a National Historic Site. But if you go to nationalparktraveling.com, you'll see her in our expert department, or just type in Tri-Valley, and her article will pop up. You'll see her photos, and you can follow along with that, or just take a listen to this conversation. And also, keep up with Hilarie. Go to northwindswineconsulting.com. She's also got articles in Big Blend Radio and TV magazine, which you can access at blendradioandtv.com. But we got to welcome back the Wine Queen. She's been traveling all year. So welcome back. How are you, Hilarie?
Thank you. I am just fine. I'm in beautiful, sunny Temecula, California, sitting at my desk, and after all my wonderful travels, I am now paying the price, and I'm locked in front of my computer writing stories.
See, that's
with the occasional glass of wine, just for a health break.
Inspiration,
right.
And also just to remember, go back to, what was that goodness that you enjoyed. But this year, you're in Temecula, which is an amazing wine country, historic wine country in Southern California, but
Indeed.
Your year started in Spain? Am I getting this straight?
Yes. My first trip this year was I went to the International Wine Tourism Conference, which was in the Basque region of Spain, in the capital called Vitoria-Gasteiz. And then I went on a wonderful press trip through Rioja and up to San Sebastian, and absolutely fabulous. Went and did some touring around in the city of Bilbao on my own beforehand. So that's going to be one of my upcoming stories I'm going to share with all the Big Blend family.
Cool.
Yes.
Wow. So all
that
over.
That was really exciting. And then after that, where did I? Then my husband and I took a little wee vacation to Lakewood, New Jersey. Met the wonderful mayor, Ray Cole, and he helped to organize the 50th anniversary celebration for our all-time favorite band, a prog rock group from Britain known as the Straubs. And it was like a 3-day musical extravaganza love fest. It was incredible. It was one of those life experiences that you'll never be able to have again. It was fabulous. I get tingly just talking about it.
See, but this is what's so interesting too, because I remember you talking about this is going to get big, but then you also went to deal in England just because of the Straubs, right? So you follow
same group
musicians anywhere. You are,
and we're going to be taking our next vacation to England and France this winter, and it's going to be centered around music too. So, what can I say?
Wow! Can you say what band yet? Well, it's interesting because so many bands go over. I mean, the Straubs English, of course, but so many bands go over there. And is the venue different, like from going between like New Jersey or because it seems to me like they're more intimate overseas, like in Europe and England.
Yeah, although the venue in Lakewood was a theater called the Strand, and it used to be one of those old vaudeville theaters built in the early 1920s, and then it was used for those out-of-town Broadway tryouts for plays and so on. So it was quite small-ish, but not as small as the theater where we saw them in Deal. No, that was pretty intimate. And sometimes they play a lot of university venues and those kinds of things. So they're quite small. And I love places. Hughes Room in Toronto is somewhere Straubs always go, and it's a nice sort of little supper clubby place. Fabulous.
See, this is interesting. Now, speaking of like rooms that are like have theatrical background, I want to go to California's Tri-Valley region, and everyone, you can go to visit Tri-Valley. Is it .org or .com? I pulled out on that.
.com, I believe, but I'll have to check.
.com. It is. I just checked. Visit TriValley.com. And what's interesting, just speaking on the park side of things, one of the communities there is Danville, and you went to America's, greatest playwright, Eugene O'Neill's house.
Yeah, it's the whole area there is beautiful. I mean, the town of Danville itself. But yeah, you're right. It was the only place where Eugene O'Neill actually settled down. He was like many writers, a bit of a gypsy and a vagabond. And he settled there in the 1930s, he and his wife, and built a wonderful sort of slightly adobe Asian-style house that they called Tao House, Tao, based on the religion of the same name, the Asian religion. And it's really where he wrote most of his famous works, Long Day's Journey into Night and Moon for the Misbegotten, and I think Iceman Cometh as well. So very productive period for him, and pretty well his sort of last big productive period. But now the house is open. You can go and visit by, it's usually by appointment because you can't just drive up. It's now surrounded by, a really nice residential area. So to respect the neighbors' privacy, they have a little shuttle bus that takes you from the town of Danville up to the National Historic Site, and then you can tour the house and walk around in the gardens and see his swimming pool and, kind of imagine what he might have been thinking when he took his little breaks during the day and from writing and wandered around with his dog and had his lunch and, just lived a normal, regular life. Amazing how famous people do that.
I know,
like a real person.
Normalcy. Yeah. Did you see where he wrote? I mean, did he have windows out to gardens, or, everyone's different when it comes to writing.
Yeah, he had, his den where he did his writing, and he had three doors that locked. So he basically ensconced himself in there so nobody could bother him, and he'd go in there for hours and hours and then come out and, go for a walk or go for a swim and or visit with friends, and then he'd go back and return and keep writing and writing and writing. I mean, I have an office, but it's only got one door, so I guess I got to work on that.
Oh no.
I know. Our offices change on a daily basis.
I can imagine. You must get very creative at times.
Yeah,
well,
sometimes
you wake up going, "Where am I?"
Yeah, you wake up, where am I?
True.
First thing is, where's the computer? Before you do anything is, where's the computer? Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it's weird. It is different.
It is
right
weird.
Now, Nancy's downstairs
I'm
in a basement area. Beautiful house that we're in. Our friend Eva, Eva, her house and overlooking this, where I'm sitting, we're overlooking this beautiful pasture with horses, and this is a beautiful area. So it changes every day, like where we're going to, every place we go, sometimes it's a hotel room, and sometimes it's,
it's not.
Poolside.
Well, you two are nothing if not adaptable.
That's why happy hour is always important. And so this is the thing where you were, it seems like, I'm going back to our conversation on Temecula's wine country, and everyone, that's also Hilarie's article's up on nationalparktraveling.com. You just type in Temecula, you'll find it. And you were talking about how historic Temecula really was, like one of the top, first California producers of wine. But now I'm going, what happened when you got up to the Tri-Valley region? This seems to be one of the most historic wine regions. Not just in California, but the country.
Yeah, people don't really talk about it very much. But then, it started, their first vines were planted just, along with a bunch of other things on the cattle ranch of Robert Livermore, who was kind of the first kind of Westerner who settled in the area, and that was around the 1834-ish, because he had a cattle ranch there with a fellow named Jose Noriega, and then that's when they had the Mexican land grants, went from Alta California. And again, as I was researching and learning all about this, it reminded me so much of Temecula, because the history is very similar in that regard. The old Alta California, the land grants and given to people. So they had that, and then they purchased some neighboring property. And it was right on the main route between San Francisco and Sacramento, and also the same road that led people to the gold fields of the Sierras. So it became he was such a hospitable man, he opened his home to people and fed them and started a post office so people could pick up their mail en route. And so people just referred to it as Livermore's Valley, and that's how the region got its name. But he was the first one to plant grapes there. And then it went on from there to a fellow named Charles Wetmore. And he was actually a restaurant critic in San Francisco.
Wow.
And he was a real big proponent of California wine. And in, I think it was around 1882, he thought, well, I better put my money where my mouth is, and I better see what I can do to help out this industry. So he scoped out the region, and he went to the Livermore Valley. And the Livermore Valley is really interesting because it's most valleys, go north-south. But in Livermore, the valleys run east-west. And so what they do is the valley sucks in the cool coastal air. And it's really cool because of the different currents that come down the coast near San Francisco and the bay, and it just sucks in that cool area, so the region doesn't get overly hot, but it gets warmer during the day, and then it gets cooler at night. So again, very similar in some facets to Temecula. And between that and the soil that reminded him of Bordeaux, he thought this is the place, and he was the first one, again, to really plant major vineyards in the area. So, lots and lots of history. And he was also the first one. He started a winery called Cresta Blanca, and he planted his vineyards there with cuttings that he brought back from Bordeaux, from Chateau Yquem and Chateau Margaux, which are two of the most famous, names in the world of wine. So pretty good heritage there.
And everyone, you can tell Hilarie does know her wine. She's a wine queen because she's a sommelier. She teaches wine. She goes into wineries and teaches them about wine. The tasting room staff, etc. But really, it's like, and you've traveled all these places, so it's really interesting. When you go in and to places like California, here's the roots going back to like France. Do you connect, have a sense memory of those grapes and going and having been there in France, in the south of France, and everywhere you've explored there and tasted, I should say?
Yeah, you do, and that's what's so fun. Well, one of the things that for me is so fun about wine is it just encompasses so many different things, and different disciplines and interests. And then when you start learning about different regions and how they're all so different, but so many of them are interconnected in these interesting little ways like this, And a lot of California wineries went, they went to especially Montpellier, where they in the south of France, in the Languedoc, where they have the huge viticulture, like a giant greenhouse, where they started collecting cuttings of all these different French grapevines. And so a lot of the early vintners in California, that's where they went to get their cuttings, and then they brought them back and planted them. And that's what the Wente family did. And Wente is, known all over the world. And they're headquartered in the Livermore Valley. And they're known now as the first family of California Chardonnay. And they imported Chardonnay vines from France, and they started cloning them. So, and in the original times, what they would do is they'd just take the vine, and they would take one of the the arms of the vine, and they'd push it down into the soil next to the original plant, and then it would start taking root, and then they could separate it, and it would be another vine. So they kept doing this over and over and over, and developing all these different clones of Chardonnay. And now, wherever you go in California, and actually throughout the country, you'll find many, many wineries who happily tout that, all of our Chardonnay is Wente clone number such and such. And that's how famous it is. And it all came from this one area, from the Livermore Valley. I mean, how cool is that?
It's cool, but is it if you you get a clone, okay, it's as close to the original as you can get. It's a clone, and you plant it somewhere else. Isn't it going to be just slightly different because your weather and your soil is different?
Yeah,
so,
it'll have certain characteristics that are similar to the original, the mother plant from which it came. But yes, you're very right, because it's the soil in which it's planted, the different climate and weather conditions of each vintage, the soil composition, the moisture, the fog or lack of it, the wind, all those different things that compose my favorite word, and we know what that is, right? Terroir. Then that definitely is going to influence the final product and how that Chardonnay tastes. So it's not going to be a wine that's a clone of a Wente one. But it's going to come from a clone of the original Wente vines with its own little twist, depending on where it grows.
Yeah, because it's living. That's how, I always think of wine as living, because
living and evolving.
It's always different. And if you could have the same wine from different regions and just do a tasting, I've never had a tasting like that where you have the same wine from different places, and then taste the difference. I think that'd be really interesting.
It's amazing. And there's another, you could do that with another winery from the region too, Concannon. And they got Cabernet Sauvignon clones from Bordeaux. And now they say that in California, at somewhere around 80% of all the Cabernet Sauvignon that's grown in the state is related to that mother vine that the Concannon brought over in the 1800s.
Oh, wow. It's not the mothership, it's the mother vine.
So, the two most famous wines you think of, Chardonnay and Cabernet Sauvignon, and go right back to this one little area of Livermore. And a lot of people go, I've never heard of it before. Well, you've probably drunk it in a way.
It's almost like the umbilical cord of wine for California.
That's a good way to put it. I like that.
It's like, yes, and I want to hang on to it as long as I can, so I keep getting that wine. But what's interesting now is here's all this wine history, and obviously amazing wine too. But also, it's like you talk about, it's got like Mt Diablo, which is a state park. You were saying that this is part of that history. So you've got this mountain peak, and you're east of the Bay, the San Francisco area. You've got the Bay Area, and then here comes residential life. So you've got this interesting, should I say my favorite word, blend of things going on.
Yes, it is a blend. It's a very big blend, actually.
No, it's a blender.
And and one thing, it could have been not instead of a blend. I mean, if they hadn't watched it in the region and taken care of their agricultural and land and so on, it could have just all been turned into suburbia. But they didn't. They wanted to preserve their heritage, and they formed a series of different nonprofits, and then eventually, which now they've evolved, and it's called the Tri-Valley Conservancy. And it's super interesting. You'll see, when you're in wine country, you'll see signs, about being, managed by or owned by the Tri-Valley Conservancy. And they make sure that the parkland stays parks, that heritage land is heritage, that wildlife preserves are protected, and also that agricultural land, that the vineyards have room to grow and also maintain their their historic vineyard lands and aren't gobbled up by, residential development. And everybody seems to work really well, and you'll go visit a winery and there'll be a nice little housing development on the other side of the street, and everybody gets along, but they live in pretty good harmony from what I could tell.
It sounds like a little slice of like utopia, It's like,
I know. I'm sure. I'm
wine,
sure they have their problems, but I couldn't see any.
Yeah, well, they've got the town. Listen, Pleasanton. Who doesn't want to live in a town called Pleasanton? And so this is your farmers market, right? They have a farmers market, and I want to talk about the food there because it seems really cool. But hey, you got wine, but there's also an ice cream trail. Hello, I'm now.
They've got. Get this. They've got, of course, there's the wineries and the winery trails, and some of the wineries are really within walking distance. I mean, you can rent electric bikes or walk these trails that go from winery to winery. And then there's also the ice cream trail. I didn't get to partake of that, so I have to go back. I have to go back at least a couple of times because there's so much to do and see there that I, only touch the tip of the ice cream cone. But yeah, they've got that. They also have their brew trail because they've got some really fantastic craft brewery places. So they have that. And then I saw on social media that they're going to be announcing a coffee trail.
Wow.
They got some really great coffee places and roasters and so on. So there you go. Because after all that wine drinking, the next day you need that coffee.
So it's
Tri Valley
Valley
Trail. Ice cream in between.
Yeah.
Do the wine, do the ice cream, and then the coffee.
There you go.
Oh,
see, you can just mix them all up. Then go for a beer. Get your little passport stamped on your brew trail thing.
Hey, we were just in Santa Fe, and they have a margarita trail, and I just went. I know that your trip was part of the International Foodway and Travel Writers Association. You guys go on these awesome press trips and media trips. And we thought that, we'll be really good friends since we do so many interviews with the writers from what we say IFTWA, the International Foodway and Travel Writers Association, that we'll go check out Santa Fe for you. Even though,
I know, that was so kind.
I know. And we had to do margaritas, and
so
Hilarie
beautiful.
sends me an email going, have a margarita on me, but not the slushy. And I'm like, seriously, when would you ever think Hilarie would have a slushy? They don't even ask you there. It is on the rocks from what I remember.
Excellent. That's class.
I don't remember much, but no, I'm kidding. But how many writers went with you on this trip?
It was a very nice small group. There were just 5 of us.
Nice.
And that I like that because it's it's easy for everybody to get around, and you get a chance to ask the questions that you want to ask of your host and the people at the different places that you visit, and it's a little more relaxed, and everybody gets along, and it's wonderful. It was a really, really enjoyable trip. It's amazing how much ground you can cover in 3 days, I tell you.
Yeah, we know.
I know. They just thank God for wine and margaritas and ice cream, right? And coffee.
And good
coffee. Coffee.
Yeah.
Listen, these hotels that are like putting Keurig in espresso makers, when you get to the La Fonda, you get an espresso, just saying, in Santa Fe. So that's important in the morning when you haul butt on these trips,
it is. I mean, people think, it's so nice, you get to go to all these places, but it's really
work.
It is work, and you're up early in the morning, and especially when you go on a press trip that is in Europe, where they eat dinner at 9 or 10 o'clock, like on my trip to Spain, you don't get to bed until 12 o'clock or so, and then of course you got your, you have to do your social media posts and check your emails, and because that other life you have is still going on, so you got to make sure that keeps rolling, and so you maybe get 4 or 5 hours sleep a night, and then you're up the next morning and you're off and running, and so it's I mean, I'm not complaining. I love every second of it, but it's pretty exhausting when I get home. I crash for a couple of days.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been going through. I'll be honest and say that it's like, okay, you have that, but I want to go back to Pleasanton because it just seems like this is where we should all live because of the name. But
yeah,
it's got the
Pleasanton's great. All the towns, Dublin and Danville and Pleasanton and the town of Livermore, they're really close together geographically, but they're all so different. It's fascinating. Yeah, Pleasanton is wonderful. It's just, as they told us in the 1850s, 60s, it was known as the most desperate town in the West. And it was full of, drunks and gamblers and, I mean, it sounds like the real reprobates that got kicked out of, I don't know, the scuzzy side of San Francisco docks or something, all ended up in this town of Pleasanton. And now it's this beautiful, little main street with gorgeous trees and shops and really, really good restaurants and nice, residential areas. But they do say it's haunted, so it'd probably be a good place to go on Halloween. They have they have ghost tours at Halloween. So that's kind of tempting. Yeah.
I like this. I like this in Dublin. You're in Dublin, and apparently that goes into more of an international style of things.
Yeah, and Dublin is there's a lot of newer residential areas in Dublin because it's close to the BART station, the Bay Area Rapid Transit. So people who are looking for a little bit more rural lifestyle and maybe a little bit more bang for their buck than they would get living in San Francisco itself have moved out to this area. And there's also a lot of different companies like Ross Stores, for example, and a bunch of medical companies and cyber companies have opened their headquarters in Pleasanton. In Dublin. And that's why it's now known as the second fastest growing city in California. But they still keep their little old central, historic downtown. It's still adorable and has all the nice little shops and restaurants and things. But it's also got a huge, shopping mall and restaurants, because of this influx of people from all over the world. It is now known not just as a family town, but also as a international culinary hotspot. So, you get incredible dim sum brunches and Thai food and Vietnamese and I'm sure there's got to be some good Irish restaurants too. I mean, it is named after Dublin, after all.
I know. Hello. Fairest of cities. When you put in your article, we love parks. Over 20 parks. 20 parks.
Yeah, there are parks everywhere. And even in my hotel room, I was staying at the Aloft Hotel, which is this really super modern hotel. They even have a robot that will bring your towels or your shampoo.
No way.
Things to your Seriously, he's really
way.
cute.
Can you mess with the robot?
You look out the window and you can. It's really quiet. It's got all the super duper glass, so you don't hear the freeway, but you can see the freeway, and between the hotel and the freeway there are these beautiful landscape trails with all these native plants and little arbors where you can sit and you can go biking and walking from one area to another. They've really kept that rural feeling, and as you drive a little way away from the freeway, you can see the lovely soft rolling hills and the cattle. I mean, you're always like that far away from country, even though it has a bit of a city feel.
You have that, but you have a robot. I mean,
yeah, it's got a robot.
Does the hotel have one robot?
Name?
Yeah.
Does it have a name?
Does he have any? I'd have to check my photos because I didn't send you one. I'll have to find a photo of him. He's really cute.
Oh, Priscilla, our little sock monkey travel mascot, her little ears just perked up because she's like she hasn't met a robot dude yet, and
well, he might take her for a ride. You never know.
Ooh. So, how many things can the robot do?
Well, they use the robot so that if, people call up and they say, oh, I need some extra blankets or towels or I forgot my razor, all those little things, and to so that people don't have to leave the front desk and can provide better service and more continuous hospitality for the guests. They load up the little robot and they send him, and he goes up in the elevator and comes to
Will you bring me cocktails? This is important.
I don't know.
Can he replace his boyfriend?
They do have a very nice bar downstairs, and it's one of those hotels. I really like this style. It's a loft is owned by Marriott, I believe, and the rooms are really super modern. You know, they have an Alexa there, so you can ask Alexa to do things for you, and you know, beautiful big TV, all the amenities you could want. And then downstairs, it's very communal. They have a big open area where you can, and a pool table, so you can come down in the evening instead of, you know, hibernating in your room. You can go down and meet people and have a drink, sit out by the beautiful pool and the lovely gardens, and it's just it's that sort of idea of community in a hotel instead of everybody being separate.
This whole area sounds really like has an interesting balance of progression, clean progression, right, into how we're going to go, because we're not escaping AI and robots.
No.
But you're talking about garden spaces, so we need outdoor. We're getting away from industrialization, but into clean progression and still industrialization, right? But in this different way of learning from the past. And then having farmers markets and wine and, you know, all these open spaces and, you know, this is, and ice cream again. This is sounding, and again, keeping that downtown feel to me is so important. I look at where we are here in Florence, Colorado. Everyone we said we're in Florence, they're like, where's that? And we go, well, it's this little tiny town the size of Julian, California, very similar to our old hometown of Julian in the mountains in San Diego, very similar. And the downtown is a National Historic District, and it is just, there is nothing commercial in regards to the typical box store things. You don't have subways and all that except for on the outside. And I mean, and we're talking maybe 3 things that have a brand name, 3 or 4.
Oh, that's nice.
I mean, really,
awesome.
It's this incredible balance, and it's like no, in the middle, and like I don't want to say nowhere, but and it's like hello, there's this balance, and people are, you know, enjoying it, and I think that's important to have these downtowns that maintain their history. Otherwise, you become this, you know, I don't know. You need to maintain your past and keep that culture, and it sounds like this has this incredible balance of what they're doing as they move forward, and understanding the balance between people moving there, the local community, and tourism as well. Would you say that too, with
most
the
definitely.
two working together?
Most definitely, And they've just got it is a good balance, and you know, they have such respect for each town, and as you say, each town has its original little downtown core, and they're so proud of them, you know, and each one is different and has its own little character to it, but they want you to go see it. They want to show it off. And as much as they want to tout about all the new things that they've got. And I just think that's so great. And the Livermore winery area, they're so proud of their history, but yet they have, you know, wonderful things, like it's not your typical winery area in that and one thing about the area is all the parking is free. Like, when was the last time you saw that?
Oh, that's
You can go
awesome.
into any of these towns, park your car, no meters, no parking lots, just all free parking. The wineries, you know, their tasting fees are, you know, kind of around the $10-15 mark. Most of them will refund the tasting fee if you make a purchase. So it's really in that way going back to how it used to be in a lot of areas. So it's very reasonable. It's busy, but I was there on a Saturday, and it was, you know, it was really enjoyable. I didn't feel rushed or pushed, or it was busy, but it wasn't crazy busy. You know, it was like 5 deep at the tasting bar kind of busy. And, I just had such a great time, and I really, really am looking forward to going back.
Oh, I love this. I love this, too. One thing I'm going to bring up, and it's important about parking. Nancy and I always forget about that. You know, we're always in smaller communities, you know, and then all of a sudden we're like, oopsie, check that out. You could run up you could run up your, you know, your bank meter with some of the parking in places. So it's important. And people look at the Visitor Bureau websites because they often let you know where you can do things, and look at hotels. Hotels always work with you on that as best as they can. I've learned that. I need to bring this up because there's two places. I want to talk about the Black Hawk Museum complex.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I feel like this is really important. Danville. Okay. We need to talk about Danville because apparently the number 3 best dive bar in the Bay Area, Elliott's, is a place we need to go.
Yeah, I didn't go into
go.
Elliott's. I didn't have time, but I did see outside, as you can tell, because I managed to get some pictures of their wonderful sign. But yeah, Danville now is quite, it's a little on the upscale side. So there are quite wealthy people that live in that area. So the shops and things are reflective of that. There's some beautiful boutiques and home decor stores and so on. But yeah, it also has this bar called Elliott's, which started in 1907. I think it moved to its present location on the main drag in 1912 or something. And then, of course, it closed down in Prohibition. It was an ice cream shop. There you go. See, there's the ice cream again.
There you go.
And now it's this divey little bar. I peeked in. It's, decor is not its highlight. And it was the local NBC affiliate in the Bay Area did a poll of the best dive bars, and it came out as number 3.
Cool.
Hey, I have friends who go to dive bars as part of their travel experience.
It's fun.
Oh, yeah.
And we're
fun.
One of them.
Yeah. Well, Elliott's should be on the list.
Scandal. You want the town scandal,
that's
where you're going to get it. You're going to get everything. And
I love going to places like that because then you get to see where the locals hang out.
Okay, so when we come to Temecula, I'm just saying,
yeah.
we need a dive bar. Do you have a dive bar in Temecula?
That's a good question. I think there may be a couple. I'll have to do some scouting before
I know
you get
Fallbrook
here.
does. I've done the Fallbrook.
I know. I was going to say there's more in Fallbrook, or there was.
Yeah.
than maybe Temecula, but I mean,
it's been years.
2 sides of the street of Fallbrook. Just saying.
Uh-oh. So I'm going to go to the Black Hawk Museum complex because you have some amazing car photos, like
they're so cool.
Buffalo Bill gloves, Buffalo Bill, like the man. You had Buffalo.
Yeah,
this Bill Cody.
This place is incredible.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's you go to this area outside of Danville. It's called Black Hawk, and it's a beautiful upscale residential area. And there's a lovely Black Hawk shopping area, and it's all landscaped with a little river that runs through the shopping area, and there's lovely restaurants and things. And up at the top of this big flight of stairs is this huge building, and it's the Black Hawk Museum. And it was started originally to house a vintage car collection. And
cool.
it now has, I think, something like usually around 70 cars on display in the building, and they're always changing, so you can go back every couple of months and you'll see something different. And they have things from, old things that ran on corn fuel, right? And looked like a wagon with a little motor on it, all the way to Bugattis, and now they're going up to 1970s, like muscle cars and that sort of thing.
Cool.
And I'm not a big, car aficionado. It's not my area of expertise, but anybody who just loves design or just loves to look at beautiful things will be surprisingly entertained at this museum. And you walk in, and it's on this shiny granite tile floor, and honest to God, you almost need sunglasses because the lights and the shiny metal and the floor, it's totally blinding. It's incredible.
Wow.
And then
blinded
you go up
by the light.
yeah. And then you go upstairs, and they have an area where they have an African art collection, but the real highlight is this exhibition called The Spirit of the West, and it covers the history of the Plains Indians and the encroachment of the Europeans, and it talks about the history, and it's the things they have in there are just beautiful. It all started from a gentleman who named Jerry Fick, and he had a collection. He was part Native American, and he grew up in Pennsylvania in the 40s, and he started collecting things. And his collection grew and grew and grew. And then he had a place, I think, in Wyoming, where he opened up his own little trading post museum. And then later on, when he got older, his whole collection was purchased by this gentleman who had opened the Black Hawk Museum named Kenneth Baring. And they built this beautiful display for it. And we had a great docent who toured us around, both downstairs in the cars and also upstairs. And it was really exciting stuff. Yeah, and Wild Bill or Buffalo Bill's gloves and his hat and his little fob, and it was really cool stuff.
Wow, that's amazing. And then
it's
interesting. I know. And you talk about the Plains Indians going from the Midwest, like he was saying. That's where he started his collection. It's interesting because it's kind of where Nancy and I have been traveling through some of the plains up in like Colorado, northern Colorado, and even New Mexico, some of the northern New Mexico areas. It's like plain country, and you see prairie dogs and stuff. Man, I go like silly happy when I see a prairie dog. Other people want to shoot them. I'm like, they're the cutest things on earth,
ever.
You know. But it's interesting because of the history, and that's amazing that it's there. In here in Northern California. I mean, that's awesome. I want to go.
Oh, yeah.
I really want to go.
It was fascinating, and they're also they're in the midst of completing a second museum building, and it's going to house the natural history area and also their Oriental arts collection. So this thing is just getting bigger and bigger, and here it is. It sits up above a beautiful shopping complex. I mean, like, who would have thought?
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
The museums are up there. It's fascinating.
And that's something about what's, we have to really realize that breweries can be in an industrial park. The best restaurants can be in a strip mall. Museums can be at the top of, a building that you wouldn't ever think. And it's important that we occupy those spaces in these ways because we don't want, it's like, don't tear shit down. Did I just say that?
Yeah.
I did. Don't tear it down.
Yeah.
I mean it because it's part of that history and we can use things. I think we're in a very interesting time, as human beings here now, in regards to how we look at things, how we travel, and it really goes with the whole thing of don't judge a book by its cover. At the same time, we're in the world of Instagram and everything's photogenic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a really interesting time where we're at. And places like what you're talking about in Tri-Valley, that balance, I think, is key. And it opens people's minds to just step in a door that you may not think it is. It is what it is. It's hard to explain, but it's cool what we're doing.
But there are so many amazing little things everywhere. Every town you go to is going to have something pretty well that is different or interesting, or and it makes you just say, well, I'm glad I parked my car and got out. It was
exactly. Doesn't that happen with us every time, Nancy? And sometimes we go through frustrations when we travel, and it's like, and then all of a sudden you're like,
really?
This was the best thing ever.
Where did my suitcase go? In Lisa's room, I have hers. Like, oh, you wore this? Really?
Yeah.
No. I think one of the things about when you walk into downtown and you see vacant shops, I always feel like, oh, come on, guys. Please, fill that shop up. Don't build a new one somewhere else. Fill that shop.
Yeah.
I agree. Let's not take any more land. Let's fill up what we've already built on. There's shops already there. People will come when they know about it, even if it's remote, even if it doesn't even maybe sit well with the rest of the people downtown.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes I just think you've got to have your own identity and put it out there long and strong and often enough so you, in your own space become a destination because you offer something different. So
yeah,
I hate
and sometimes it can just be one thing, can't it? I mean, they open, resurrect an old theater, or repurpose a building and start a theater. And if you start a theater, then there's some restaurants and galleries that open up, because people want to go and eat before they go or after, and then a wine bar opens, and then the next thing you know, all these, it gets out, oh, that's just a great restaurant, you got to go try it, and people go down just for the restaurant. So another restaurant opens, and it'll just go on and on from there. And like you say, if you repurpose some of these older buildings, instead of using new energy and new materials and new this and new that, it just makes everything more fun. I mean, one of the restaurants we went to, and it's supposed to be like the hottest restaurant in the whole Tri-Valley. It's called Ranch Life in Livermore. And it's this tiny little place, and it's on kind of a slightly industrial-looking street, and it's got one of those big roll-up doors. So my guess is it was probably an old gas station or, car body shop or something like that at one time. So there's a building that's been repurposed, and it's doing very, very well. Fabulous.
I love that.
Food and
that's so cool. That's way cool.
I love that. So Hilarie, you are on Happy Hour, and I didn't tell you this beforehand, but we're always going to play the game. It is time. There is no way anyone comes on Happy Hour without escaping from the conversation about who you want to drink with in some place, whether or not it's alcoholic. That's really not what Happy Hour is about. Happy Hour is about sitting down and having that conversation in a really cool place. So, Hilarie, looking at your experience in Tri-Valley, if you could go back, right, which you want to already, and spend time with someone in history of the Tri-Valley region, who would you go? Who would it be, and where would you spend that happy hour with, and what are you drinking? Of course, we want this.
Oh, okay. I think I would want to talk to Charles Wetmore. Okay, the guy who the ex-San Francisco restaurant critic who started Cresta Blanca Winery, and I'd want to sit at his old site of Cresta Blanca Winery, which is now part of the Wente family, and have a glass of Wente Chardonnay with him, and see what he thought.
And see what, about going back in the past. Isn't that cool? Like, to me, that's the thing. When you go into these towns, you want to sit down with the ancestors, and like, hello, I want to do this, or, the people of, like, just, this is where it's gone. What do you think? Awesome. Everyone, again, Hilarie's article is up on nationalparktraveling.com. You'll see it in the summer-fall issue of Parks and Travel magazine. So just go to nationalparktraveling.com. You'll see Hilarie in our expert department, or just type in Tri-Valley. You'll find it. And keep up with Hilarie and her travels. She's got a great blog as well. Go to northwindwineconsulting.com. That's also the name to use on her social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. But, Hilarie, we got to play some music for you. And since we're talking about California, I know this one doesn't talk about wine, but it's about California. So we're going to play Hey, Hey, California. This is from Everett Coast. And you know what? They know about wine. I know them because we know them. They like wine.
They're cool.
And they know about Central California, Northern California, Southern California. So here it is. Hey, Hey, California. And we're looking forward to our next chat with you and hearing more about your travels. Take care.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Take care.
Here it is, everyone. Hey, Hey, California, everettcoast.com.
I'm hoping you know how far I would go for your love. You think you've seen it all before. I'm gonna show you that I can't outgrow you, darling. You leave me wanting more. But now I'm far away in East Tennessee. I just need another drink in front of me. It's been a long damn ride across the country, and it'll be a long damn time till I come home. Plucking petals off of flowers. It's been 8 months, 3 days, 2 hours. Every moment I miss you more. But baby, when I get home, I know we'll pick up where we left off. And this show I'm living in will come to a close till I'm back out on the road. But now I'm far away in East Tennessee. I just need another drink in front of me. It's been a long damn ride across the country, and it'll be a long damn time till I come home. On the horizon, only one thing on my mind is I think, hey, hey, California. Counting county lines and street signs, anything to pass the time as I think,